and kick things off. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the American Family Insurance Dream Bank, where we believe in the transformative power of dreams. My name is Andy Frisky. On behalf of the entire team here at Dream Bank, we're so thrilled to have you with us for today's event. As we get started, we always like to learn where folks are tuning in from and encourage you to do so in the chat section if you are comfortable. As mentioned, I am in Madison, Wisconsin. The weather has turned, the leaves are changing. It feels like fall. Um, yeah, it's a nice time of year. So for those of you who have attended our virtual or in-person events in the past, welcome back. And for anyone that's taking time to join us for the first time today, I'd love to give you a few talking points or a little intro about DreamBank, who we are, what we do, and why we exist. So here at American Family Insurance, life is better when you're under our roof, because when you feel totally supported and protected, any dream is possible. And that's why we created DreamBank. It's an inspirational community destination and virtual experience that is designed to help people pursue, achieve, and protect their dreams. And at DreamBank, there's something for every dreamer, from our weekly events to immersive signature programs, special events, and on-demand content, or our free programming and resources are designed to bring you inspiration, motivation, and support no matter your interest. So go ahead and check out our upcoming virtual and in-person events at amfam.com/dreambank. Couple of housekeeping items before we go ahead and kick things off. I see a lot of you have found the chat section of the webinar here. That'll be kind of our primary resource to funnel any questions that you have for Emily for her presentation. She will be taking some time, so be sure to answer those or pass through those questions, as well as any sort of platform questions or tech questions for me. If anyone's having any difficulties or issues, go ahead and shoot me a message, and I'll do my best to make sure that you get accommodated. Again, this event is being recorded. So if you wanted to share the link with anyone who maybe isn't able to attend or want to rewatch Emily's session today, you're able to do so. Typically get those out a couple days after the event is done, and that will be sent to the email address in which you used to register today. In addition to that, you also will be receiving a post-event survey. Those surveys really kind of help us dictate and guide the types of content that we put out, or the types of events that we put out, and only takes a few moments to fill out, and would really appreciate if you took the time to fill that out once the event is over. Again, that'll be in your inbox as well. All right. Let's go ahead and introduce our featured speaker today, Emile Davis. So Emily is the founder of Magic Mirror Marketing and a trusted strategist for small business owners who want marketing that feels authentic, effective, and fun. With over 15 years of experience in website design and marketing, she helps entrepreneurs simplify their message, embrace modern tools like AI, and build momentum without burning out. In her DreamBank session today, the AI Advantage Transform Your Small Business Marketing, Emily will share simple, real-world ways to use AI to save time, spark creativity, and stand out without sounding like a robot. So please help me welcome to the DreamBank virtual stage, Emile Davis. Emily, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Andy. I am thrilled to be with you guys today to talk about a topic I am quite nerdy about. I love talking about marketing, and I truly believe marketing can and should be fun. But something I've learned in almost 20 years of marketing is that most small business owners don't perceive it that way. They perceive it as a should, a thing that has to get done so their business can survive, but they'd rather be doing pretty much anything else aside from marketing. I don't know if that resonates with anyone out there. You can go ahead and put like an emoji in the chat to represent how you feel about marketing if you'd like. Uh, because a lot of you got into business for a specific reason, that there's something that you truly love, and marketing probably wasn't it. All right, can you guys see my screen okay?
Everything's
Andy, can
looking good on my end. Yep.
okay, great. So AI, it is a buzzword for sure. Artificial intelligence covers everything from what runs the chats on websites to people talking about robots, right? It has entered our vocabulary more extensively in recent history because of ChatGPT, one of the most well-known of the different AI tools. And so my question for you right now is, how do you feel about AI? So go ahead and in the chat, if you could start putting just emojis. How are you feeling about it? Are you feeling cautious, curious? Are you feeling excited?
We got
Okay,
a
we got a
thumbs
thumbs up
up
from
from
Gloria.
Gloria.
I got some eye rolls. Okay. Happy, excited. Yes. All of the above. I can relate to that. Lots of emotions wrapped up in this tool. Curious with some uncertainty. I get that. And Amy, you feel like you need to know more about it. Well, you are in the right place to get a little taste of what AI can do to help you in your business. And yes, Mary Jean, there is a lot of education that goes into it. And hopefully today I'll be able to move the needle for some of you who are maybe feeling a bit more on the cautious side to a little bit more of the excitement side. How much have you played with AI? So one would be that you've never touched it. And five is you use this every day and you're just here to see if I've got any more tips for you. Okay, so we do have some fives, twos, threes, fours. All right. The more I use it, the less trust I have. Always goes back to what we're using it for, right? Um, okay, we've got ChatGPT and Grammarly. Right, so a lot of twos. I'm seeing some, it seems like you've played with it a bit, but still are pretty cautious on it. Okay. Just so you guys know, on a scale of Terminator to Star Trek, I lean heavily on the Star Trek side. I believe that AI is here to help us explore the stars and that the robots aren't here to kill us. Now, that does not mean that we should not consider ethics and all those other questions that go into it. Again, as a Star Trek enthusiast, I love having those kinds of conversations. But for today, we're going to focus more on how can this really amplify our marketing efforts, take what it is that we do and make it better, but without losing the human touch. What we're going to cover today is what AI is and isn't, 5 tools that I enjoy using, and I want to kind of spark creativity with you on how you could use them as well. And then we'll talk more specifically about ways that we can use AI going forward. One of the reasons I want to talk about what AI is and isn't is because AI is evolving rapidly. There are new tools released all the time. In fact, just today, I asked Perplexity, a tool we'll go over later, about how many AI marketing tools have been released in the month of October. And there have been 25 on some of the major websites and things that have been announced. 25 in just the past 21 days. So that's a lot of tools. So anytime I do this presentation, I have to really think about what tools I'm going to showcase because new ones can come out. For example, ChatGPT months ago released an update to their image generator, and everyone was super impressed with it until Google launched their image generator in their Gemini tool and it blew it out of the water. And so these things they're in a battle right now to see who will be the victor, much like the web browser battles of the early days of the internet when we didn't know if it was going to be Alta Vista or Google that would ultimately win, and Google did end up buying out everyone else. And so right now there's a kind of struggle to see whose tools are going to emerge out on top. But in the meantime, we get a benefit from all this creativity at very low or free cost because they want to get as many users as possible. So what I'm going to demonstrate today is primarily going to be free tools and then some of them that are included at low cost, and I'll tell you about how you can access those. Okay. Now, because the tools are changing so rapidly, I'm going to spend some time here at the beginning talking more about mindset around them, because if I get too specific on too many tools, it'll be outdated by next week. But a lot of these mindset elements, they're going to remain true for a long time. All right. Number one, AI is a power tool. Much like the tractor when it was invented, it will allow us to do things that before took a long time, but now won't necessarily do that. And if anybody in here is a farmer or works with tractors, you will understand the power of that kind of a power tool. And there are times when we need brute force. We need something that can just do the heavy lifting for us. And there are times when we need a shovel. There is times when we need finesse. And there is times when we just need to get something from over here to over there. Additionally, if I was to go get inside of a tractor right now, I would not be able to use it very effectively. I'd probably cause some damage, to tell you the truth, because I don't know how to drive it. I don't know how to operate it. It looks kind of like a car, so maybe I could do okay, but with training, I could actually use this tool really effectively. So while AI deals a lot more with words and thinking, it is doing similar work to when we had the Industrial Revolution and we started having physical labor change over to machines as opposed to the thinking labor. Speaking of thinking, AI tools don't think. When we're talking about them and training on them, we tend to use language like they are human, that AI, like chat and all of its friends, is sitting there and thinking through information, that it's taking it all in and evaluating it and deciding what is best. But the reality is, chat has more in common with the predictive text on your cell phone than it does with how the human brain works. It is trying to predict what the most logical next thing to be said will be. Now, this in no way is meant to diminish how impressive this tool is. It can do amazing things in extrapolating out and scaling up the idea of what comes next. But based on your questions, the information that you put in, it's just looking for what makes the most sense from a linguistic standpoint, which is why they call it large language models. Tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, they are all trained on massive amounts of the written word, books and things of that nature. And so they have become very familiar with how humans speak and write. And so that is where it's getting its information. Now, again, computers are impressive. And it is still going out and doing searches like Google's been doing for years. It's accumulating the information, but it doesn't think or have emotions about it. It's not processing and weighing the information with any sort of gut instinct. It's just responding with what seems like should be next. That is why it does you absolutely no good to fight with your AI models. Sometimes on Facebook, especially, I'll see people talking about how they were fighting with ChatGPT or they were fighting with Copilot, which is the Microsoft tool. And you can't actually reason with it. You're never going to convince it to come around to your way of thinking. You may get it to agree with you because it knows, because it will mimic the idea that it knows that the next thing that should come in this conversation is it agreeing with you. Oh, I'm so sorry that I got that incorrect. Let me fix that for you. Or if you're in a situation where you've asked for feedback, it might actually fight back because it knows that what you're looking for is criticism or something that is analyzing the information and tearing it apart. So just remind yourself that these tools that I'm going to show you do have a lot in common with the predictive text. They're like a very, very fancy parrot that is just parroting back things that have been said. And with that in mind, remember that these tools guess, anticipate, and iterate. They do not innovate. Until we push them, until we give them the spark to what to start with, they're not going to spontaneously generate anything. Now, once I say, please combine the Gothic mysteries of Jane Eyre with Homer Simpson, if I start telling it weird things to mix together, then it can do that. But the spark of creativity comes from us, not from the tool. With that in mind, remember that you are the artist. I don't know if anybody in here has ever worked with clay, but if you were to put a blob of clay in the middle of a pottery wheel, turn the machine on, and then walk away, what would happen? You'd just have a really big mess. It wouldn't actually create anything interesting or useful. But if you sit at the wheel and you have a vision for what it is that you're trying to create, if you have a plan, if you're like, this is what I want to do what it is that I want to do, then you're able to create something beautiful and unique that has never been seen before. But you are the artist. The pottery wheel doesn't make the pottery on its own. It needs an artist to do that. All right. Now we're going to dive into the tools. I have 5 tools that I want to go over today. And these are just the ones that I have personally found work really well in a marketing context for small businesses. As I mentioned at the beginning, all of this could change tomorrow. Literally, any of these companies could update their programming, change something, and either become the leader of the pack or fall behind. But I'm hoping that these can be really helpful for you and that will spark some creativity here. I am using screenshots just so I don't have to jump out of the presentation and go type things in and then jump back into the presentation. But I want you to know that all these screenshots were taken within the past 24 hours. So this is using the latest models of all of these tools. And my focus is really just to inspire creativity with you. Think about how could your business benefit from the types of prompts that I'm putting in. Now, you've probably heard the word prompts bandied about a lot, and just to make sure that we're all on the same page, a prompt is really just the direction that you give the tool. And it's important to always have context within those directions. You may have seen, depending on how into all of this you are, people using phrases like act as if you are a marketing manager of a small company. You are not required to do that for any of these tools. However, that is a shortcut to give context. If you tell ChatGPT to act as a marketing manager, it will use marketing language and it will give you responses framed in a way that a marketing manager would, right? And you can also achieve the same goals by just explaining your situation. I'm a small gift shop located in Pawnee, Illinois. I want to sell vintage items and gifts that are vintage inspired. We believe passionately that gift giving should be fun, simple, and easy to do. And our favorite catchphrase is celebrate every day. So within that, I just told the tool, or I will tell, and I'll show you this example in a moment, just told the tool my values, my vision, my mission are, like what is important to me as a company. So it's not just about saying, oh, I have a gift shop, give me ideas. It is also about giving it an idea of who you are. Because if you put really generic things in, you're going to get really generic answers out. I think of it as if you wanted to get suggestions on a restaurant to eat at. If you told people, I'm hungry for food, can you tell me a place to eat? You'll probably get a list of the top 10, 20 restaurants in a geographical area, something that's logical but not very specific. But if you say, I am dying for a hamburger right now, then you're going to get very different answers specific to what it is that you're craving. So keep that in mind as we're going through. I'm giving sample prompts, sample instructions to these tools, but you can add in your own information and add more. I kept them short and simple for the sake of just showing them to you to make it so that this doesn't get too long. But you can give as much context as you think is helpful. And I have often used voice dictation on my phone to get transcripts and then copied and pasted it into some of these tools so that I can get as much information into them as possible. I do have people that often ask questions about security or privacy, and that's kind of a longer discussion. Just know that each of these tools do have the ability to turn off the feature where it trains other models, so it can keep your information private to you. Some of them, like Copilot with Microsoft and Gemini with Google, do that by default. ChatGPT, it's just in the privacy settings. You do have the ability to do that, but just know that I wouldn't put any proprietary secrets into any of these tools because they do keep records. Legally, they're required to keep kind of their memories for a long period of time, even if we delete them. So, don't put your secret sauce in, but you can put in a shorthand for your secret sauce to hopefully get some of the same answers. All right, I've done enough preamble and I want to dive into the tools. Okay. These are the 5 that I'm going to go over today. Now, again, I just picked those based on how they're working today. And if if you're going to write something down today, go ahead and write down these tools. But I also do have a PDF that I'll give you later that says what these tools, how I use them, and some samples, some sample prompts that you can use with them as well. All right. ChatGPT is by far one of my favorite to use, and that honestly has to do with the fact that it's been around for a while. This is the one that came out on the scene and disrupted everything, and it to me, sounds the most human when I'm interacting with it. And because I've been using it for a long time, it also has adapted some of my speaking patterns and ways that I appreciate getting information. When you're using ChatGPT, occasionally it will ask you, it'll give you 2 different examples of a response to your question or your instructions, and it'll ask you which one you prefer. So it does learn over time what it is that you want out of your answers. I used the free version of ChatGPT. I was not logged into my pro account for this in order to do this trial with you so that you could see what happens when it has a completely blank slate, what type of answers you can get back. So the prompt I gave it was, I run a gift shop in Lexington, Virginia called Sugar Maple Trading Company. We focus on a blend of vintage and unique vintage-inspired gifts, and our goal is to make gift-giving fun, simple, and easy to do. We also have the saying, celebrate every day. Help me come up with some ideas for Instagram posts that will show off our unique gifts. I don't know about you, but oftentimes I reach what I call speed bumps in my head, where it's like, I just don't even know what to do next. And I just need something to generate some ideas that I can react to. And the great thing about ChatGPT is that's one of the things it does best, is just give you options. So with that prompt, this is the start of what answers it gave to me. Okay, so it gives me 9 different ideas. And then, oh wait, there was more, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So there's a lot of different ideas that I can start with for having Instagram posts. As I read through them, the one that resonated the best with me was actually number 7, random holiday spotlights. So we're heading into what one of my friends calls Decemberween, from October through the end of the new year. It just kind of feels like one big holiday, right? There's so many things happening. So it tells me that I could highlight fun non-holidays. So not just focus on Halloween, but focus on something else, like National Handwriting Day or National Tea Day. I could feature items that help to celebrate. And just an idea for a caption would be, who needs a reason to send a card? But if you do, it's National Handwriting Day or Send a Card Day. All right. Um, so I told it, I really like idea number 7. What are some holidays coming up that I could focus on? So now that I know I like that idea, we can go further. We can dive into that. So it starts giving me all these different, even though I did do this last night, it does go back to October 3rd. And as with anything on the internet, it is good to check sources sometimes, especially if it gives you quotes or things like that. The internet is not always accurate, and ChatGPT and all of its friends sometimes pulls inaccurate information. So do use your gut when you're reading things. But in general, something like days of the month, national days, these are probably pretty accurate. But if you want to double check it, you can see these little gray patches here where it says Hallmark Ideas. That is where it got its information. So you can actually click on that and see the original article where it pulled this list from. So Hallmark at some point put out a list of non-famous holidays. And so that's a kickoff point for you just to get things started. As much as I would like to stay with ChatGPT, I do want to move on to another tool. So I just want to see, Andy, is there any questions that you think I should handle on ChatGPT before I move on?
Nothing at this time. I'll keep an eye out, but nothing yet.
Okay, great. All right. Next, I want to talk about Perplexity. Perplexity is known as the tool to use for research. Chat is really good at writing. It does a good job, again, of sounding like you're collaborating with a partner, somebody that you can bounce ideas off of and be inspired by the different ideas that it comes up with. But Perplexity, it is better at gathering information, telling you where that information came from, and helping to organize it really well. So I'm doing a similar thing. I did move the gift shop to Pawnee, Illinois. I'm a Parks and Rec fan. I know that's Pawnee, Indiana, but Pawnee, Illinois is a real place. And so what if you're starting a new business and you know you need a marketing plan, but you don't know where to start? Everyone tells you you need one, but how do you actually create it? So I gave it a lot of the similar information to what I did before. I want to open a gift shop in Pawnee, Illinois, and the context important. I'm telling it where, because in the marketing plan, that may become relevant. I want to carry a blend of vintage and unique vintage inspired gifts, and our goal is to make gift giving fun, simple, and easy to do. We also have the saying, celebrate every day. I need to research information for my marketing plan. What information would be most helpful as I start this? So I entered that. And it gave me this and this and this. It gave me a lot. Now that can feel a bit overwhelming, right? And sometimes when these tools give you things, you can say, oh, there's so much. I don't know if that really helped me. But you can actually ask it things like, ask me one question at a time because I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, like letting it know where you're at. And then it can actually ask you things one at a time. For the purposes of this exercise, what I told it is I can see in here, it said on, I believe it was the previous page, that you need to do market research. That's like step number one. Well, I don't have any market research right now. So I asked it, help me with my market research. What is the size of Pawnee's population, income levels, age ranges, spending habits, community trends, etc.? And you can see up here that there is, can you guys see my mouse? Andy, can you see it? Um, you can
Yep,
see up
yep,
here.
yep.
Okay, good. You can see up here at the top where it's pulling a lot of this data from. And so it is looking at Illinois demographics and Data USA. And then it starts telling me about the population, the income and economic indicators. We have age distribution, racial and cultural composition, spending habits, and community trends, things that are becoming popular in that area. And you can see the World Population Review is where it got that information. And then at the end, it gives me a nice little summary. In short, the core market of local residents aged 30 to 60 seeking unique, affordable gifts, have opportunities to highlight local artisanship and nostalgic or vintage-inspired designs, effective channels like community events, Facebook, and Google listings to engage consumers. And so, I mean, it just helped me get an encapsulation of what Pawnee, Illinois is really like. Now, I want to give a little caveat here. This is impressive and it pulls a lot of data. And data is very helpful when you are, creating your dream, when you're building your business. And it does not understand people. It doesn't understand emotion. It, as I said before, it iterates, it doesn't innovate. And so it can say what has been, it's not going to tell you what will be. There's no crystal ball. Nobody would have imagined social media as a thing before social media happened. And so anytime you're doing market research or things like that, just remember this is all just about data and looking backwards. But you do have an important role here with your gut, with your intuition. If you're in your town and you're talking to people and they are getting excited, there may be shifts that just haven't been written about on the internet yet, or there haven't been videos produced yet. And so the AI tools aren't aware yet that there are these emotional shifts happening. And you are, as a person in the world, much more attuned to kind of the energy around you and what the attitudes and feelings are of people. So use this as a tool, and it is a power tool for doing research, but also think about your gut anytime that it gives you information. And you can push back. I know I said don't fight with it, but you can push back. One area where that is I did research on pricing. So I was going to launch a new product and I wanted to know, all right, what are the price points most commonly for this product in this region in the United States? And I was going back and forth and it gave me some price points I didn't agree with, having been in marketing for 20 years. So I pushed back and I said, well, I've heard it said before that if you do a lower price point, then your perceived value is lower, higher price point, and people perceive your value to be higher. And the great thing was I was then able to get a pro cons list from the tool. I use chat for this particular discussion, but you get a pro cons list out of it. So then I can evaluate what information is actually valuable because it just knows what's kind of said. Something should be $495. Well, why? It can tell you, well, these are the good reasons to do it, and these are the reasons you shouldn't do it. But then you get to make the executive decision. Is that important? Is that going to matter to you and your business? All right. Okay. So just an emphasis here that when you're using Perplexity, one of the reasons it is highly regarded as the research tool is because it's easy to find the sources. Not only are they listed after each like paragraph where information is given, but you can also click on that sources tab and then it will lay it all out for you. So you can see and evaluate, are these good sources? Are they sources that I trust? Does this seem like something that I should trust? I have some friends who are professors that use Perplexity or deep research tools to help them with the first layer of research. They don't use it for their deep stuff. They still go to libraries, they still check out articles, they still download things online that they are personally going through. But it helps them know, is there a lot of research on this particular topic? Do I have access to information? So it can help them understand where it is that they're going. I have also used Perplexity before to research vacations. I was taking my family on a vacation to Branson, Missouri, and we'd been before, but I just told it that my family, I have 5 kids. I've got like a million kids. And so I told the ages, and I said, my husband and I were taking all the kids. Last time we were here, we enjoyed these activities. I'd like to know some more activities that are available to do. And the reason I gave it the age ranges was so that it could evaluate and look for articles that specifically mention I have a 3-year-old and I have an 18-year-old. So I have a big spread. And I asked it to put it in a table for me and to include links to the websites of the activities. And if ticket pricing was available, to include that as well. And it did it. And this was actually 8 months ago I did that. It's probably even more powerful and better able to do it now than I was back then. But you can ask it those sorts of things to help you research things like that. That's like, I know I can personally go out and Google all of these things. Or maybe as a starting point, I can ask it for information and then use that as a jumping off point. And when I looked at the sources for its research into Branson, it was a lot of the websites that when my family had gone on the trip before that I had looked at, Explore Branson and things like that. So, just these tools can help us shorten the amount of time it takes for us to do things. It's not that we can't personally research using old tools like Google, but if you want to save some time, you can utilize this. Deborah says ChatGPT is excellent at vacation planning too. I think all of them are getting a bit better. Gloria, Perplexity and Comet. Comet is the web browser launched by the company that owns Perplexity. So Perplexity, every time I log in, it's trying to force me to use Comet. I did use Comet for about a month and a half as my primary browser. My personal opinion, it was nothing to write home about. I was like, I don't know. It didn't improve my experience all that much. But again, I'm used to Google, and Google has already added an AI tab and does AI summaries at the top most of the time anyways. So I didn't feel like having Perplexity giving me deep research answers helped because I was used to typing in phrases into the search bar in order to get to websites. And instead, it would like just pull up a list of information. So always something to play with. And that's something I would encourage all of you to do is to play with the tools and see. We all have different things that we value and like. I love ChatGPT because I'm a talker. I love sitting with somebody and hashing out ideas. And so I do that with the AI tool. Some people love Perplexity because it's much more just kind of, straight-laced. It's going to tell you the research, tell you the facts. It's going to give you where the information came from and organize the information in a slightly different way. But the more we use any of these tools, the more it'll start to adapt to how we like to use them. Jamie, we're not going to get into agents today, just a heads up, because agentic AI is deep. So all the AI tools that we're discussing today are more reactive. We put in prompts and it gives something back. The next step for AI, just so everyone knows, is agentic AI, where we're going to be able to assign it tasks to do things that it can go away and come back and be able to do it on its own. There are some baby steps that have started happening where you can connect ChatGPT to like your Gmail, and so that can start pulling information and checking your calendar, things of that nature. It's all still very much in baby stages, but that's the direction we're going. I look at sci-fi a lot when I'm looking at all these tools. Right now, we're more like if you do watch Star Trek, I was a Next Generation girl. The way the computer works in Star Trek Next Generation is very much as we have it right now, which is we say something, it'll give us information back, but we're still the ones steering the ship. We're still telling it where to go. Agentic AI is more like Jarvis the from like Iron Man. It's more you can assign it to go do something and it'll respond back and gets more friendly. But we're working through all these things. Um, okay. Jamie, I'll be thinking about I do have a resource for you, but I can't think of it at the moment off the top of my head. Oh, and Amy mentioned using Excel and Gemini to design worksheets and things like that. Another fun thing is if you have a paid account with ChatGPT, you can take screenshots or upload images or upload PDFs and things like that. And sometimes if you've got 2 tables, you can screenshot this table and say combine the 2 tables, and it'll help shortcut that kind of thing. And I know Microsoft is working actively right now to try to improve its AI tools so that we can essentially talk to Excel to get it to do what we want instead of having to figure out all the formulas and do those sorts of things. So as I said, new tools all of the time. It is definitely an exciting time to be working right now. Okay. Now I'm going to dive into Gemini. Something I will say about Gemini is this is not a totally free tool. There is a free version if you have a Gmail account at all. You do have access to Google's AI tool called Gemini, but it's not as fancy. They basically have a paywall to make you, if you want the really fancy stuff, you need to have one of their paid accounts. So if you have an email address that is like at rasbornfarms.com or something like that, that's a paid Gmail address, you have access to these Gemini tools that I'm going to go over. If you have like your name at gmail.com, you have the free version. So it may not be able to do all this, but I did want to show this to you guys because it's where everyone else is trying to go right now. Like Google released this image generator and everyone else is jealous, so they're coming for it. But I just want you to see what's capable, like what's possible right now. All right, so I gave an instruction, and so for this exercise, think about situations. Maybe you wrote a blog post or something like that, and you just need a picture to go with it. And you don't know where to start, or you don't have access to stock imagery, or you're searching through image after image after image of stock imagery, and you can't find something that matches what you want. So I gave it the prompt. Create an image of a professional woman sitting at a desk and typing on a computer. She is happy. Professional lifestyle photography. The professional lifestyle photography I put there at the end is just to give an indication of style. I've also told it before, like create a colorful illustration or colorful painting. Giving that indication to it lets it know kind of how to focus the design. When you are doing image design in any of these tools, you are at best an art director. You're not an artist because there's an element of randomization that happens. I cannot specifically get this tool to do exactly what I want, at least not on the first pass. It'd be very frustrating if I was trying to. But if I just need like a general image, it's really great. So I'm going to show you what makes Gemini special though. So here, based on the prompt, this was my professional woman who, she's happy. She's sitting at a computer. It looks like professional photography. It's very nice, very pleasant. And we're getting away from it used to be if you had images generated by AI, people had too many fingers, their hands were freaky, people in the background, their faces looked like monsters. There were crazy things, but it's getting better and better all the time. Well, what makes Gemini special is that if you were to ask ChatGPT to create an image, it might create something like this. And I did that for a long time. I would use ChatGPT to do silly things like make my family look like Muppets. It's one of my favorite photos, is I took my family photo and said, make it so we all look like Muppets, and we do. And it's great. However, when it generated the photo of my family as Muppets, it gave my daughter like an extra hand. It was weird. And so I wanted to tell it, remove this hand. But as soon as it tried to do that, it changed the faces of everybody else in the picture. And that was frustrating because I just wanted one element changed and the whole thing changed. And I'm like, no, I loved everyone else's faces. Why couldn't it just keep that one element? Well, Gemini is the best tool that I've found so far at actually changing one element. So I see this woman's obviously in some sort of high rise in a city. I want it to be some sort of cozy home setting. So I asked it, remove the city background and replace with a cozy home interior. And now suddenly she's at home with a fireplace, nice and cozy. But she's not cozy enough. I want her to be wearing a sweater. So now I'm going to tell her, change the woman's outfit so she's wearing a sweater. And suddenly the blouse is gone and she's in a sweater. So that's just one really impressive thing that Gemini can do is to change one element at a time. We could tell it to add a vase with flowers. We could tell it to make the sweater red. We could change it. Is it perfect? No. At one point, when I was doing this example, I wanted to change the ethnic heritage of the woman, and it had a hard time with that. So sometimes you'll still hit walls, but sometimes it gives you exactly what you want. And that's still light years ahead of where we were even a year ago. Can the images be used for commercial purposes without violating intellectual property laws? Yes. If you notice in the bottom right-hand corner, there is a Gemini logo thing down there to indicate that this is an AI generated image. You do have permission to use it on things. I know people that print t-shirts and stuff like that with some of their illustrations. The caveat is you cannot use any copyrighted materials. Where a lot of these companies are getting in trouble is when people are saying, put Homer Simpson at a computer. That is copyrighted. Homer Simpson, the character, is. So as long as it's just doing random generations, you're not in any trouble. The problem is when you start requesting protected intellectual property and copyrighted items. And a lot of these companies are starting to work through that you can't just put anybody that you want in there. Especially with video creation, they're starting to have more of a crackdown on that. I know Bryan Cranston recently lodged a big complaint with Sora about people using him for like Breaking Bad videos or things like that, and he does not give his permission for that. So we are at a time of reckoning where people are figuring out, how much can you use actors and their voices and their faces and all those kinds of things. But if it's randomly generated, in general, you're safe. Okay. So who owns the copyright? I think nobody owns the copyright if it's generated by Gemini. It's not copyrightable. So, but the chances of the exact same image being generated again are pretty minimal. And actually, if you ever put a prompt into ChatGPT or into Gemini, your chances of if you open a new window and put the exact same prompt in, you will not get the same answer. And so that's why it's always funny when people do examples online. Sometimes they'll be like, put this prompt in and you're going to get this. No, you won't because there's an element of randomness in there. And based on what you've put in before and all these kinds of things deeply impact what answers you're going to get. So even if you guys take my exact prompt here, you're not going to get this woman in this setting with these elements. So nobody owns the copyright, essentially. What is the paywall cost to access the more detailed version of Gemini? It is Google Workspace or Google Premium. So in general, I think the cheapest Google Workspace is $12 a month, I think. I haven't checked the pricing recently, but I do believe it's about $12 a month. Now, something I will say is Gemini, I'm showcasing the photo and editing capabilities. However, it has writing capabilities very similar to ChatGPT. So you do get quite a bit with that. So you could make Gemini your primary AI, so then you're not using others that you may have subscriptions to as well. And again, the only reason I'm sharing this is just because it's really impressive what they're doing with images. ChatGPT may not be very far behind. I don't know, but it may be coming soon. But this can be really helpful. Another really fun thing is if you're creating graphics, I have found Gemini to be pretty impressive with graphics. So create an eye-catching social media graphic announcing an end-of-the-year website bundle where websites that include a proactive care package can have their payments spread over 12 months. Soft, modern, and cheerful style. All right, so a very simple prompt. And it came back with this. I mean, that's almost Instagram worthy, right? It's almost something that you could put up in your social. I personally have a problem with the A and the R not being in the dark blue. So I just told it to get rid of the year end part and just say website bundle. So I could make a small change. And that's because in my experience, if I asked it to try to change the A and it's harder for it to really hone in on the letters. They'd all tend to struggle a bit with letters. So it's easier to just say, take out that one thing. But that's just my preference. You could sit there and play with it for a while and direct it to do more, to change out what type of laptop this is, maybe make it with photos instead of with illustrations. But this is a very quick way to generate some social media imagery. Okay. All right, we got to move on to the next tool. Our time is flying by. Notebook LM. So this one is also part of the Google Suite. And again, I'm sharing it because it's unique. This is something I haven't seen. However, some of these tools are probably going to start showing up in other places. So I just want you to be aware that these capabilities exist and you may start seeing them used on some other platforms. So the thing that's unique about Notebook LM is if you go into ChatGPT, there's always a chance that it will search the internet or get like general information and bring it back to you. Same with Gemini, that if you ask it to help you generate some social media posts, it may pull from outside sources. But Notebook is specifically designed so that you tell it the sources it's allowed to pull from. And so you can upload things from your Google Drive, like documents and photos. You can do links like YouTube, and you can copy and paste text into it. So for me, what I did is I have done a series of speeches recently, and I put them up on YouTube. And so I added them into the sources. So I added, you can see over here on the left, these are like a podcast episode I appeared on, some speeches, a PDF. And so there's only 5 sources total. But it's summarizing, this was the very first one, connection over content. That was the first thing that I put in there. It added it there. But you can see on the right in Studio, there are all these other tools that you can quickly utilize based on just those sources. So I went ahead and asked it to, like, I jumped into reports. And once I got into reports, you can see it'll do like a briefing doc, like a quick overview of information, create a study guide, create a blog post, a keynote speech, a white paper, an explanatory article, or a concept explainer. And so this can be useful if there's something you need to learn or something you need to explain to others. That's where I think Notebook LM can be really useful. So for the purposes of this exercise, we're going to do concept explainer. Now, it does not do this quickly. I think it took it 5 minutes to actually go through my information and create this, but that's still impressive because it would have taken me longer than 5 minutes to do what it's about to do. So I went to concept explainer. Um, this is the default prompt that was there. That it's going to create a report that is a straightforward guide for students that explains how AI can be a helpful marketing assistant, break down the 3 levels of using AI, intern, consultant, collaborator, as described in the source, using simple language and relatable examples to demystify the technology and show how it can help with brainstorming and refining ideas. It got that from me importing the sources into it, and then it's summarizing what is in there. So that was already part of the tool. I just had to click on create report, click on concept explainer, and now I'm going to click on generate. And from there, it created quite a lengthy report about the combination of those 5 sources. So not just what I said in one speech, it's what I said in all 5 of them. Okay. So, oops. Going back to some of these other tools, we don't have time to fully go into it today, unfortunately. But on these tools over here, the audio overview, when I click on that, it creates a podcast with, I think you can pick how many speakers, but it chose 2 speakers that explain the concepts. It was 14 minutes long when it was done. And I started listening to it, and I honestly had a moment where I was a bit freaked out because I'm like, this sounds so good. The transitions were excellent. The concepts were clear. And then I had to remember that it was all my stuff. Everything they were saying was actually my content that I had fed into this machine, and then it gave that podcast back out. But if you're someone that learns auditorily, like you love to, be in the car and listen to podcasts, you can take different YouTube videos that you've been meaning to watch but haven't had a chance to do it yet, or you can take white papers and documents that you need to research for, and you can upload them into here. Caveat is this is still a computer and it's still the internet. Errors can still be made, so don't rely solely on it, but it can be a shortcut for you to get information, to summarize, to look through. Maybe if you need to do some sort of review guide for like employees, you're creating standing operating procedures or things like that. This can be a way that they can get to know your clients or they can get to know your business. It can just be a tool to really take information and put it in a completely unique format that is it's only your stuff. It's the sources that you want to pull from. And this is just, it's really fun and unique. Now we're running out of time, so I'm going to jump to the next tool. I showed you that it pulled this huge report, right? So we have this, sorry, I got to get further in. Pulled this huge report. The last tool I want to talk to you about is called Gamma. Because if you've ever needed to make a presentation quickly, if you're not a designer like myself who thinks it's fun to create PowerPoint slides, this is something that can help you take your information and get it out in at least a nice looking format. I use Canva to design a lot, but I have not been impressed with its AI tools for like taking information and turning them into stuff yet. I'm sure they're working on it. But Gamma is pretty fun. So when you go to Gamma, you can see it gives you options to create with AI. And I'm going to do the paste in text version because I have that huge summary that was generated for me. And so if I wanted to do a presentation on the information from that summary, I would click paste in text. And then it gives me this. I can choose to do a presentation, create a web page, a document, or make some social media posts. I'm going to click on presentation. There are a lot of options as we go throughout this. I'm just going to do the default for everything. But just know that you do have a lot of options as you're going through it. It gives you some tips on the right for how you can do this better, like the more you use this tool. And at the bottom, it asked me if I wanted to generate the presentation from notes or an outline so that it would follow it very closely, or summarize long text or a document. You can also have it preserve this exact text if you have completed your presentation, you know exactly what you want it to say, you click on that one so it locks it down. But we're going to summarize the long text. It then gives me a whole bunch of other options. Now, don't be overwhelmed. If you're walking through this, it is pretty intuitive. Over here, you can tell it if you want it to generate new text or not, up here in the top left. I want it to condense it. I don't want this huge report on the screen in a PowerPoint, right? So I want it to be concise. I could go even more minimal where it's just like really small bullet points. And then we have some themes down here, and they have a ton more that you can get a very basic template of what you want it to look like. Up here where it says freeform or card by card, right now, because of the way it was pasted in, it thinks there's only 2 cards here, but I'm going to switch it to freeform, which means that it will just split up the information as to how the AI thinks it makes sense for the information to be split up. And then additionally, you can choose on the left what types of imagery you want in it. Do you want it to generate AI images? Do you want to generate illustrations? Or you can also tell it, instead of AI images, you could say you want stock imagery or you want to upload your own. So those are all things you can do. And if there's things that you want it to focus on, like if you paste in a lot of information and you want it to focus on something specifically, you can tell it to do that as well. So again, right here it says 2 cards total, but I did change it to free form before generating this, so it would just generate what needed to be done. And I'm going to stop sharing for a moment because this one, I do think you need to see what it looks like on the web. Oops, that's not the right one. I thought I grabbed the right one. Hold on. Here we go. Okay, can you guys see that? This is the presentation that it created from all of my information. You see how long it is? And it generated all of these pictures and images. And I know I'm just flying through it right now, but if I go up here to present, you can actually use this as a real presentation. So I push over, and it's giving you all the information about what my presentations included, like what my speeches did. So that one is just, it's fun, it's different. If you're not a designer, it's a great way to shortcut it. And I can actually go back, once it's created it, I can go back in the process and then make tweaks. I can decide I want it even more concise, I want even more language. Like you can edit all of those settings while you're in it. And so it can be a great shortcut to help you create presentations or social media posts or things of that nature. All right. We only have a couple minutes left. So just really quickly, how you use AI ultimately, oh, I lost. I'll skip the PowerPoint. You didn't need it right now. But when it comes to AI, I really do want you to remember that the point of marketing is not content. The point of marketing is connection. So while all of these tools are cool and they're fun, they allow you to have more time to think about the connection because you're not worrying about like how to actually build these things or how to actually write it out. But you can think more about your customers, about what it is you're trying to accomplish, where you're trying to go. Because the most powerful marketing is personal. In a world where AI can start creating images out of anything, where words are not hard to generate anymore. Like you don't have to be a really experienced writer in order to write a good social media post. What's going to happen is it's more white noise unless you're focusing on how can I truly connect and help other people. If you're writing blog posts, yes, it can impressively create a blog post in 5 seconds. Any of these tools pretty much will help you write well, maybe not Gamma, but the rest of them will help you write blog posts. So how do you make sure that that blog post is connecting? It's by thinking about your actual clients. What questions do they have? What are they struggling with? What do they need help with? And how can you help them? How can your product make their life better? Like going back to the basics of why we have marketing. It's so that you can send out a beacon to everybody and tell them, hey, I'm here. I can help. This product can help. This service can help. And if you make that beacon strong enough, then they'll be attracted to you. But you also do have to put it out there. If you turn the beacon off and you never say anything, no one will ever know it exists. So again, while all of these tools are impressive, you have gut, you have instinct, you understand people better than the machine does. Even if you don't always feel like we understand everybody, we do live in this world and we see more of it. And our brains are better than text predictors. They do more. And sometimes when we're given a huge list of ideas from ChatGPT, I don't like any of them, but they spark an idea in me. And I can say, oh, I like a combination of 2 and 3. let's try that. What would happen if we took the first option and we spun it so it focuses more on men ages 60 to 65? So you can go through ideas quickly, but allow yourself to be in the driver's seat. Allow yourself to have that spark of creativity ignited because the tools will do what we tell them, at least for right now. The tools will do what we tell them, but we are the innovators. And so this is a great opportunity for you to stop worrying so much about how much you have to write or how something looks and start thinking about how can I truly connect with the people that I want to work with. We now have just a couple minutes for questions.
Emily, thank you so much for that. I feel like we were all rather immersed, at least for those of us who maybe work in corporate America, when it comes to AI tools. And one of the things, I think you did a really good job kind of summarizing it there, but I wrote down here, AI is the enabler, not the strategy. And I think that that's
Yes.
such a great way that you put it. Again, folks, we've got a few moments here for any questions. So go ahead and pop them in the chat. I'll be sure to relay them to Emily. Up until we're set to stop here. As we're waiting for some of those questions to come in, Emily, I would love to hear, just at a high level, what is one of your favorite personal and professional ways to use LLMs or these current AI tools? Maybe we can start with personal life. I would love to hear kind of your favorite way to use some of these tools in your personal life.
Um, yes. How do I use them every day? Really quickly, I'm going to pop up. This is just a QR code real quick for you guys. I have a free resource. It's a PDF that goes over these 5 tools just to tell you guys like what they were and what they're used for. So Oh, that document Andy just dropped in there has links to all these different things as well. But if you do this, this gives me feedback on whether or not this presentation was helpful. So if you guys can take just a moment to do it, it's very quick. It helps me develop these presentations for the future. My favorite way to use it is I call it getting over the speed bump. Sometimes my brain is it's full. I have a lot going on. All of these tools are great at organization. And so
Hmm.
I mentioned voice memos. I will often talk, like if you have ChatGPT on your phone, you can actually talk to it. Like you just turn it on and it'll respond to you like it's a person with a voice and everything. But I'll just talk for long periods of time. I'll say, okay, I want to develop this new product, and this is what's important to me. This is what it needs to include. I don't know what I want to call it, but I know I want to go over here. And so I'm giving it my vision, my mission, my values, like what it is we're trying to achieve. And then I just pop the transcript or close off the voice memo in the tool, and by default, it wants to organize it for me and just like say, what do you see? Like I'm not even telling it what I want to do with the information, but then it'll organize it for me and I can go through and be like, yes, because sometimes it has these amazing insights where in organizing my information, it gives me feedback like you really want to make sure that you empower small business owners. I'm like, yes, I do. That's what I want to do. And so I'll get phrases sometimes from that that is very helpful. I also, if I'm just drawing a blank, I don't know where to start. Like there's a project that's happening and I'm like, I don't know. So I'll just ask it, give me 20 ideas for this problem. And again, sometimes it's trash. Sometimes it's like, no, I don't like any of those. I'm a writer, like I've had 20 years of copywriting experience. So I'm pretty picky on the results that I do often. I don't always like the way it writes. However, it gives me great places to start, and then I can combine this, and I can put it together. And so that's what gets me excited. And even, like I said, planning vacations for my family. It's that idea. It's like, well, I don't even know where to start. I've got a 3-year-old and an 18-year-old. Like, what's in the middle? And so then it tells me that there's a butterfly palace that I didn't know existed in Branson, Missouri. And I can decide if my kids would be interested in that or not. But at least now I know it exists. So I love that kind of creativity.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and I know I shared with you kind of preparing for this event today. I do all the cooking and grocery shopping in my family, so I absolutely love it from like a meal planning perspective, or just kind of creatively like, hey, this is what I have in the house. Make me something tasty, or like come up with something tasty, and that really helps kind of me get over the weekday slog of I know that we've all been there, but it's like, all right, what's for dinner tonight? It's a
Yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, what have you. So. Yeah, and then Corinne had a great comment here, which I hadn't really thought about, but stating that they love to use GPT to give them a study guide when they're participating in a themed trivia event. I think that's brilliant. Absolutely love that. So for any of those
Yeah.
upcoming Lord of the Rings, maybe trying to remember all those really elvish names that are hard to remember, might have to try that out too. Couple more minutes here. We got one more minute left for any questions. So if someone has one last question, go ahead and pop it in the chat. I have a question, last question for you, Emily. Here at
Mhm.
DreamBank, we are a community that is built up of, fellow fearless dreamers. We always like to ask our presenters, what's one piece of advice you have for someone who is actively pursuing a dream right now?
If you're actively pursuing a dream, you have more control than you think.
Mm,
I've been working with a lot of small business owners. I have found what stops them more often, it's not that they don't have options, it's that they're not picking one,
hmm
not actually choosing what it is that they want to do, even to try it. Like give yourself 90 days to try something and then see how you feel about it. Often they're stuck. And there's this old internet quote, I don't know who originally said it, but it's the world is full of flat squirrels that couldn't make a decision. You
mm.
know, if you're just sitting there being like, well, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, then you don't move and you might get hit by a car. So if you've got a dream, it really is deciding what you want to do. Because if you can passionately go after something, at least you start making progress. You may not, again, the old sayings of if you shoot for the moon, at least you'll land in the stars, even if you don't make it. So what stops a lot of dreamers is just not being willing to actually make a decision and start moving on it. So
I
make a
love it. I
decision.
love it. Thank you so much for that. Looks like those are all the questions that have come in, so we will go ahead and cap it there. Emily, thanks so much for putting together such a wonderful presentation. Definitely got some insights from this here today. Thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us here. Really means a lot. Again, keep an eye out for those pertinent links in your inbox shortly after this event. But we will go ahead and cap it there and see you all next time. Take care, folks.
All right. Thank you.